Guy, can you see and hear me, sir?
I can, Julian. How are you, sir?
I've been a fan of yours for a while, so thanks for granting us this interview here, mate.
Oh, mate, thanks for having me.
I got to tell you, I was really blown away by Stewart's film. It went in some really unexpected directions, and I really want to do a deep dive into Clyde because he's such a different character from what we've expected from you in the past. So my first question is, and this is a hard one, does Clyde have any redeeming qualities?
I think he does, and I understand why it might be hard to determine what they are from the man we see on screen. But I think something that's interesting about him is uh, we meet him in a place where he's on the run from something, but really what he's on the run from is kind of who he became. Um, but I don't think that this kind of monster, this guy that we toy with the idea that there was perhaps an abusive side to him at one point, and I found ways to sort of authenticate that for myself in creating his backstory. But I think we there's a moment in the film quite late in the piece where he kind of breaks down. It's a really sort of intimate beat between them when the sort of wheels are well and truly off the track, and he talks to Gina about wanting to go back to the time where they were just it was them in the back of the truck, and the lights out the window, and things were pure, and that's all that mattered was kind of their love. And I think there's a tender, vulnerable boy inside of him who really is the victim of being abandoned as a kid, and but was a very like loving, dreaming kind of child himself. And we see some of that in ways that it's hard to decipher how they've kind of developed into what they are. But I think that the house, this kind of box, this mysterious box that he's building for her in the middle of the desert, and um, ideas like that lean into a person who really like wants to preserve something very true and very meaningful, but he just doesn't possess the language to conduct it in a way that we understand, because he struggles. He's got demons, and sadly, in him trying to preserve that life for them or reestablish it, he doesn't understand that he's essentially stomping out her capacity to dream as well. So it's this really like multi-layered um, argument with himself, and it's a shame that something that he I think comes from a good place has such a negative impact on her. But that's the wrestle that we're in when we meet these two.
One of the things that Stewart does, the director, is you never see Clyde beating up Gina. You just kind of they refer to it in the aftermath, with the dress and the blood or whatever, but she is basically in a prison in a cage. And so does she have we know that she has a true love for him, right? But is Clyde really a man that wants to control her by fear? Is he so deluded in believing that fear is really love?
No, I don't think he understands that that's how it's being received, and I think he's committed to a narrative that there's an imminent threat that they're on the run from. But what we don't really get to understand, and certainly he's not able to communicate it, is that like the threat is really who he is when he's living in that environment that he's kind of trying to run away from. And I think the lifestyle he chose, where the sort of hand he got dealt, pulled him into a world where, there was abuse of substances. Things got way out of hand, and it's pretty well understood that he struck her at some point. But these aren't things he's proud of or even oblivious to either. I think it's just he carries a lot of shame, and he doesn't want to lose her. She's the most important thing to him in the world. And I think if he was able to just say that, we would escape all of this kind of this imprisonment, this kind of all of this confusion, and he would be able to give her the things she wants. It's just that he's got to do a lot of work on himself, and sadly he's not equipped with the tools to confront that.
Great answer, mate. All right, so let's talk about the setting, right? So you're an Australian playing a Texan in the Canary Islands, right? And I really enjoyed the interview I did with Erin and Stuart. And they really talked a lot about how the environment really framed the performance because it was literally you guys and the crew in this middle of nowhere. So, from your perspective, talk about how filming in the Canary Islands really, influenced the character.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is a little strange. The Canary Islands kind of conjures images that don't necessarily correlate with Big Bend, Texas, but we were blessed with this incredible location that was kind of Martian in a way. It was this huge arid crater in a valley, and the film is a very isolating film. We need to be in that space with her for a lot of it, and the location was the perfect setting for that. It was pumping wind all day long, which was created kind of turmoil at times for our crew and their equipment. But I think those elements and the roaring heat and just being, kind of far from civilization, certainly in the sense of how we were, the infrastructure we had around us, just helped us sink into the mood. You really don't have to suspend your disbelief too much or use your imagination when the set around you really is the world that you're residing in within those characters. So you're not often afforded those privileges, but it was something that seemed a little left of field and really, really worked for us and what Stuart desired. And I think the language of the cinema itself, what Erin Moriarty, our DP, created in camera and that light was just incredible and truly unique. And yeah, it was just a real gift for setting the tone and the mood of the film to have a location that lent itself to these feelings so equally.
I got to give Stewart a lot of credit here. I mean, for being a first-time director, because he's got this wide, expansive landscape, but like these shots, especially the ones outside of the window and inside the trailer, it's so confining, right? So you really get that good juxtaposition going between the characters. So talk about working with him specifically on set. I mean, you've worked on these blockbuster franchises, and here you were with a dude on his first film, but he seems to know what he's doing. I mean, were you chipping in any stage directions? What was that like?
No, I mean, look, Stu's a very collaborative energy to be around, and someone who's very receptive and a real student of film and of what we do as well. I mean, he's very open to what an actor might need, and I don't mean in the sense of like lattes. It's like he'll admit his inexperience, but from a place of curiosity and like there was things that we were just able to establish. I've worked with plenty of first-time film directors, and I'm slowly chipping away at a career, if you will. But it is nice. It's always a different energy to kind of be with people that have varying levels of experience. And I don't know. I think we all just helped each other along at different times. He wrote such an amazing script, and I think he was so over prepared in how he wanted this story to kind of unfold that at no point did his kind of lack of fucking film credits play into any anxiety for us. He really had control of this thing, and I believed in him for a long time. I was attached to it for a couple of years actually before it was able to get on its feet, and he and I had been sort of loosely, softly bouncing ideas. I guess it was prep in some way, but really just more kind of conjuring things that helped us sort of understand where we were both coming from with it and what we were going to end up seeing. And I mean, I'd love to go to work with him again. If he had something ready to mount next week and wanted me to be a part of it, I'd be there.
Bravo. Well, like I said, I really enjoyed the film and I was really surprised by where it went. All right. So I've gotten a 2-minute warning here. So let me ask you some questions from the metrics department. They want me to ask. So I see you've got a film upcoming called Beef with Timothy Oliphant, and you're doing a series called American Primeval. What can you tell us about that?
Well, American Primeval is definitely very real. I wish I could say the same for Beef. That's probably something that the internet has said. I don't know where that's at. It's been some time, so it's unknown status on that one. But American Primeval is a series that I'm part of that I'm really excited about for Netflix. That's super super violent and very dramatic and very cool. It takes place in 1856. Um, it's sort of the sort of opening of the West, Mormons, Native Americans, bounty hunters, the army. It's all happening, and I'm really excited. Pete Berg directed that. He was an amazing person to work with, and yeah, I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled that's coming along. I think January that drops, so I'm excited to share that with audiences. And I got a couple of other exciting things in the can. I just finished a horror film called Dangerous Animals with an Aussie horror auteur named Sean Byrne, which I'm pumped about. That was another huge stretch for me character wise, and getting the chance to do something really dynamic and complex. So yeah, watch this space. We'll see that's coming down the line not too far.
All right, right on. Let me sneak one more in. She hasn't yanked me away yet. So, I've pretty much seen all of your work, and like you really have this like great thread because you're in these huge franchises. You're in fucking Suicide Squad and Terminator and Divergent. But like my favorite characters from you are guys like Clyde and like Buffalo. These
Mhm.
small films where you're doing a lot of nuance. So as an actor, what do you like better? Do you like the small guy or do you like the action star?
It's funny. I think my trajectory early on, like, sort of pitched me into that action thing, and some of my more well-known films are certainly in that space. But I think now it feels like I'm achieving a lot more balance and getting the chance to choose material that is a little more nuanced. And I mean, I don't know. It's sometimes feels wildly different, and sometimes it's just like a job's a job, and you approach it with the same set of principles. So I don't really have like a preference around it. I think if anything, I just hope to keep expanding myself as an actor, and whether those opportunities come through huge studio films or tiny ones that are hard to get on their feet and even harder to get out to the world to see. It's just going to be the journey, man. And I just want to do this forever. I love it. I'm really grateful every day I get on set and get to do what I love. That's something that's never lost on me. So as long as I keep expanding and hopefully building on whatever it is I'm finding, then I'll be happy.
Awesome. Thanks for your time, man. I really enjoyed this film. Cheers.
Thank you. Cheers, Julian. Thanks a lot, mate.